back to the daily grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And everybody's favorite annoying little brother just got a big W. Iaquinta called the UFC's bluff and now increased his contract threefold, he said in an interview with ESPN. Iaquinta is happy with this new deal. He says very few people know their worth. Now, a lot of us know Iaquinta's situation, and some of you don't, so let's get into it. Iaquinta is a very talented lightweight fighter. I believe he's actually in the top 10 of the UFC's lightweight rankings. He's coming off of a big first-round knockout over Diego Sanchez, but that was his only one of his only fights in the last 2 years because he's been having contract disputes with the UFC. Now, this is the interesting part. Iaquinta signed a contract and he felt like he wasn't getting enough money. He felt like he was worth more, especially coming off of his big knockout. Now, Iaquinta has also been subject to not being able to win fight of the night bonuses, I believe because he cursed at the crowd. So his next 3 fights he wasn't eligible for fight of the night performance bonuses, which is an extra $50,000. So when he knocked out Diego Sanchez, a lot of people thought it might have been performance of the night, if not also knockout of the night. But Iaquinta was ineligible for those bonuses, so he had to take that hit. Now, it was a punishment from the UFC, so some people can say, hey, you gotta eat that, you signed the contract, so it is what it is. But Iaquinta went against the grain, went against his contract, and held out. And if in the ESPN article, it says Iaquinta is one of the few people to be able to rip up his contract and demand a new one and actually get it. But that's because Iaquinta has some leverage that a lot of other fighters don't have. Now, a lot of fighters this would not work for. Just telling the UFC, yeah, I see this contract and all, but I'm worth a lot more money, so I'm not fighting. He essentially held out for his contract. Iaquinta's got a lot of star power. So maybe that's why the UFC wanted to negotiate with him. They just opened up the New York market as far as coming in Madison Square Garden and Brooklyn. They're about to come back to Brooklyn for UFC 223. And Iaquinta is one of the most promising fighters in the lightweight division, especially out of the New York market. And he's also, as I said, one of the best lightweights in the world. So Iaquinta, who does not rely on the UFC's money to pay his bills, that's why he was able to do something a lot of other fighters wouldn't be able to do. He was able to hold out. And he said in the past he had some surgeries he believes from his fighting that the UFC wouldn't even pay for. He wanted the best of the best surgeries. He said his family had to pay for it, or his father, the UFC wouldn't pay for it. So Iaquinta went into real estate. He's like, yo, if I've got to pay bills some way, I'll go into real estate. I can be successful outside of the octagon, so I'll just not fight. He was down to, completely retire. He was willing to do it. He said the UFC came to USADA test him. He was like, whoa, that is not my Batman cup. No, but he said USADA came and he called the UFC like, I told you guys, I'm fucking retiring. I'm not gonna go, don't take me out of the USADA pool unless you're giving me a new contract. So instead of, if Iaquinta would have got taken out of the USADA pool, he really wouldn't have been able to fight anytime soon, because if he would have returned to the UFC, he would have had to go through the USADA testing pool period, like 6 months, that like a Brock Lesnar or anybody else returning to the UFC would be subject to if he officially retired and pulled his name out of the USADA pool. So when he told the UFC, like, no, I'm really fucking retiring if you guys don't give me a new contract, they went ahead and said, all right. We'll give you a new contract. And so now Iaquinta's happy with his new contract, and he's going to be fighting Paul Felder at UFC 223 in Brooklyn. Big fight. And it's actually a big fight for Iaquinta. It's a huge opportunity because Paul Felder is a guy that is UFC commentator. He's also a really talented lightweight. So this is actually going to be a really big fight for Brooklyn. Paul Felder's got a great chance of winning, so does Iaquinta. You have to wonder, has he still been motivated to train hard in his absence from the sport while he's been in contract negotiations? We know Paul Felder's just coming off of a big win over, I believe, Charles Oliveira. I believe he finished him. He might have knocked him out in the second round, if I'm going off of memory. So Iaquinta is one of the few people to, call the UFC's bluff, and it actually worked. And with that being said, this probably won't work for many other people. Iaquinta had something to stand on, but it's just interesting. I wonder if we're going to see any other fighters look at this and say, maybe I need to pull in Iaquinta. We might have some other fighters announcing real estate. Actually, we've already had other fighters announcing real estate, so oh my lord. With that being said, man, it is what it is. Iaquinta's happy with his new deal, and we should be happy. Iaquinta versus Paul Felder's happening in Brooklyn, because it's going to be a really exciting fight between two of the top lightweights in the world. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out.
Da 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 da. It's the motherfucking D-O-double-G.